Hello. Thank you very much for joining our 45-minute webinar on local sustainability plans. My name is Jackie Fricke from FirstCarbon Solutions, and I'll be your moderator today. In this webinar, you'll learn what a sustainability plan is, why you should develop a sustainability plan, what is typically included in a sustainability plan, and how to get started. We'll be opening up the webinar for questions at the end, so if you do have questions, you'll see an area in your control panel to type in your question throughout the webinar, and we'll answer those questions after we've gone through the presentation. If we run out of time and are unable to get to your question, please be assured that we'll get back to you offline to ensure that you have all the information you need. You'll receive an email later today with a link to a survey requesting your feedback on the webinar. We welcome your input so that we can improve on future sessions and bring you the relevant information you need. You'll also receive an email tomorrow with a link to a recording of this webinar. Finally, we invite you to follow us on Twitter at FirstCarbon and to share what you learn on social media using the hashtags #LocalSustainabilityPlans. Joining us today is Frank Coyle, Director of Sustainability Plans, Environmental Services, and ESG at FirstCarbon Solutions. Frank has over 25 years of experience in urban and regional planning in both the private and public sectors. He's prepared and managed a wide variety of policy planning and environmental documents, including climate action plans and specific plans that incorporate sustainability elements. And he was also appointed to the City of Redlands Climate Action Task Force by the mayor in 2010. And so now let's get started with our presentation on local sustainability plans with Mr. Frank Coyle.
Well, thank you, Jackie. And again, on behalf of FirstCarbon Solutions, would like to welcome everybody on this webinar regarding sustainability. Before I get going on, the types, what's in a sustainability plan, I'd like to cover, some of the definitions that are pretty common out there in the world regarding sustainability. The first definition is one of the more older ones. This definition on sustainability is meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This is more of a recent definition, systems and processes that are able to operate on their own for long periods of time. Finally, this is from the EPA, based on the simple principle that everything we need for our survival and well-being depends either directly or indirectly on our natural environment. Well, why is sustainability important? One, it creates and maintains the conditions under which humans and nature can exist in productive harmony. Two, it enables fulfillment of social, economic, and other requirements of present and future generations. And finally, it ensures that we have and will continue to have the water, materials, and resources to protect human health and our environment. Now, we hear a lot these days about sustainability. Well, again, it's important because it relates to choices that we and local agencies make and how those choices affect future generations. To give you a few examples, polluting water. Well, it supplies our wastewater reduces the availability of clean water for future use. Second, another example, soil supply. Without caring for soil that produces plant life and crops, the soil, well, it loses the quality to encourage new growth for crops and natural sources for food. Finally, sustainability, it also ensures the existence of animal species. Without clean water and non-polluted soils, the risk of species extinction increases. A lack of resources not only affects species, but also the social, economic, and economic conditions of a community, a region, a continent, and a population as a whole. Thus, sustainability, well, it's a core component to ensure that we have the resources needed to protect human health and the environment. What is a sustainability plan? Well, for the purpose of community planning, sustainability is the alignment of our built environment and socioeconomic activities with the natural systems that support life with future generations in mind. The underlying principles of sustainability are those of traditional plans. It's a high elevation, long-range vision document, similar to that of a general plan. The combination of regional and local plans, environmental, social, including public health and economics components, focuses on goals policies, and implementation. And again, the concept here is that a sustainability plan is somewhat like a general plan. A general plan provides a blueprint for how the community should develop over time, typically 30 to 50 years, while a sustainability plan provides a blueprint with how a community should be more sustainable over time. Like a general plan, a sustainability plan will have elements that will include goals, policies, objectives, and how those goals can be implemented. Principles of sustainability. Common principles to help a community ensure that its social, economic, and environmental systems are balanced. Well, these are listed below. The first one is enhance quality of life. This principle contains several parts. This includes housing, employment, income, education, healthcare, pollution, disaster risk. One community may focus on complete streets, high quality of schools, and tourism, whereas another community, well, it may focus on job opportunities and its historical heritage that make it an attractive place to live. Each agency must define a plan for the quality of life it wants and can achieve. The second principle, enhance local economic vitality. A viable local economy is essential because the principle includes job opportunities, a sufficient tax base, and revenue to support a government in the planning and construction of needed infrastructure and services, as well as a successful business center. The third principle, promote social and intergenerational equity. This principle focuses on sustainability should be available for everyone within the community. A sustainable community does not deplete its resources, destroy natural systems, or pass along unnecessary hazards to future generations. The next principle, enhance the quality of the environment. A sustainable community sees itself as existing within a physical environment and natural ecosystem and tries to find ways to exist in harmony and with the environment. Create community resiliency. A community is resilient in natural disasters like earthquakes, floods, droughts as we are experiencing right now in California, and fires, and take steps to ensure that such events cause as little damage as possible. The key with this principle is the quality of life remains acceptable manners, that is the community's vision. And finally, foster community involvement. This key principle is participation from the community as a whole in the outcome of the community's vision. Participation encourages the identification of concerns and issues and promotes how to deal with those concerns and issues in reaching an agreement. Now this slide here, this table represents key policy, goals, and plans as they relate to principles. Now on the left side of the table, you'll see 5 sustainability principles. This includes the strategic emissions reduction, smart land use and planning, responsible resource management, integrated transportation, and finally, innovative waste management. On the right side, these are the key policy goals and plans. Regarding strategic emissions reductions, some of the key bills, this includes AB 32, SB 3375, which I will get into more discussion later. Under smart land use and planning, we have SB 95, SB 97, as well as SB 375. Under responsible resource management, key bills, this includes the Clean Water Act, as well as you can see, a long list of plans that have been adopted. Under integrated transportation, the 2 common bills, this includes the alternative fuels plan, as well as the alternative renewable fuel and vehicle technology. And finally, under innovative waste management, this includes 3 bills, which are in regard to waste management as well as recycling and litter reduction. Well, what is a sustainability plan? It responds to a changing environment. It develops vision, goals, policies that are attainable. Again, very similar to a general plan. It's flexible, both short and long range. It's a policy document consistent with a general plan in both federal and state regulations. It acknowledges and addresses community needs. It acknowledges local economic vitality. And finally, it's a user-friendly document. Now, there are several reasons for local governments to take leadership and establish a policy framework with goals to achieve a sustainable future. Among these are meeting local obligations. Each city establishes its own sustainability plan to ensure that the community is doing its part to reduce emissions. Participating in economic growth based on clean technology and clean energy. Here we're looking at shifting from carbon-based fuels to renewable energy. Reducing dependency on imported carbon-based energy sources. This is conversion to cleaner energy. Improving energy efficiency and cost savings. Improving air quality and public health. Reducing demand for local and imported water through conservation and reuse. We need to sustain an adequate water supply as the population increases. Now, there is no single formula or answer to what a sustainability plan is. It's a plan for the entire community, all sectors. This includes local agency operations such as the planning department, building division, code enforcement, public works. It also includes the entire community. This includes the residential community, the business community, the industrial community, as well as the healthcare community. Providing a written plan will provide a roadmap to guide you and the community to work on sustainability efforts. The plan can strengthen the community's buy-in and understanding of the efforts needed to keep the local community operating and protecting resources today and for the future. Why develop a sustainability plan? In California, there are two key laws. Again, this is Assembly Bill 32 and Senate Bill 375. You may be familiar with AB 32. This is the California Global Warming Solutions Act. Now, this was adopted back in 2006, and this marked a watershed moment in California's history by requiring in law a sharp reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. California set the stage for its transition to a sustainable low-carbon future. AB 32 was the first program in the country to take a comprehensive long-range approach to addressing climate change, and does so in a way that aims to improve the environment and natural resources. The second bill, SB 375, the Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act, this was approved back in 2008. This bill supports the state's climate action goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through coordinated transportation and land use planning with the goal of more sustainable communities. What's unique with this bill, it also establishes incentives to encourage local governments and developers to implement the act. Developers can get relief from certain environmental review requirements under CEQA if their development is consistent with the region's sustainable community strategies. Strategies include opportunity, incorporate, and implement. Well, the opportunity here is to formulate and express the vision for the future of a community. Incorporate the vision into sustainability goals at the highest level of local government. And finally, implement that vision. You implement sustainability principles in all municipal and community activities. It's interesting, some marketing research supporting sustainability principles. Now, 87% of people are satisfied with their community's quality of life. And when choosing a place to live, quality of the environment is a top or high priority for 87% of the adults. 78% of people would rather live in a community with a mix of ages. 15% of the country says healthy food is not available in their communities. And finally, just over half of all Americans and 63% of the millennial generation would like to live in a place where they do not have to use a car very often. Now, according to the State of California Office of Planning and Research, as of June 2014, out of the 470 agencies, and this includes cities, counties, towns, 205 agencies, or 44%, have adopted climate action plans. it's a little concerning. Out of those 470 agencies, only 63 agencies, or 13%, have adopted sustainability plans. Now, before I get into typically what's included into a sustainability plan, Jackie, have we received any questions or comments at this time?
Just a reminder to everyone to please do feel free to ask questions using that question box in the control panel. We did just have one question come in asking, why have only 13% of agencies in California adopted sustainability plans?
It's a very good question, and my response is, as we all know, with the economy over the last several years, agencies have had a challenge with resources. The other challenge is funding. To prepare sustainability plans, there's a cost to it, and agencies, they may not have the funds to prepare a plan. Now, obviously, there are metropolitan planning organizations. California has 18. In Southern California, it's SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments. Agencies can apply to their MPOs for funding. SCAG, to give you an example, over the last 2 years, there has been a release of 74 RFPs for sustainability type proposals. I think out of those 74, only 5 or 6 have been for sustainability plans. So again, the challenge is resources, both people on the public agency side to work on them, as well as funding to support the plans. Any other questions, Jackie?
Not at this time, thank you.
All right, why don't we go ahead and get into what is typically included in a sustainability plan. Most plans you will find an executive summary. Essentially, the executive summary is to identify what's in the plan, what the vision is, what the objectives are. A lot of times in the summary, you'll find who was involved with preparing the plan. I've seen online several plans. In the plan that I worked on, you'll have technical committee that prepared the plan. So the executive summary will identify, who prepared the plan and what their role was. Second section is the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and it's very important to include background data with where your community is when you start preparing your sustainability plan. And the third section is elements, and these are the topics that will be included into your sustainability plan. And under each element, you'll find goals, indicators, actions needed, action type, cost, and the ecological benefit for that strategy. The next section is the implementation plan, and this will define the phasing of implementing your goals for your elements, as well as identifying funding sources that I mentioned earlier. You'll also have supporting material. Again, this is essentially like the technical appendices of a document. It will provide material that backs up information within the sustainability plan. And finally, you'll find a glossary. Since this is a document for the community, the sustainability plan should be very user-friendly, and by having a glossary, it can assist the public understanding some of the technical terms that are used within the plan. Now the second section, baseline information, this is where you'll find your greenhouse gas emissions inventory, both for the public sector and the community. And baseline data, well, this is the initial collection of data which serves as the basis for comparison with future data. To plan a truly effective sustainability plan, you have to know how much an effect your community has on the environment today. You need to have baseline information of the level of impacts that are current and based on existing conditions. Recording baseline measures will allow the agency and the community to track progress of their plan over time. Again, it's very similar to parts of the general plan. Within the general plan, it will analyze the existing conditions. Same with the sustainability plan. You need to identify your existing conditions of your community. And in the public sector, well, this will include buildings, solid waste, employee commute to and from work, electricity usage, wastewater, stormwater. And under the community, well, some topics could be solid waste, transportation, commercial, residential, industrial, public facilities energy, water, wastewater, and stormwater. Now, the next section of the sustainability plan, this includes your elements. And unlike a general plan, where in the general plan you have 7 mandatory elements, in the sustainability plan, there's no minimum or maximum or what the elements should cover. There are several different topics out there. If you have a chance, go online and look at the various sustainability plans. They're not common. There's a wide range of types of topics that can be included. Now, I like to call them elements. It reminds me of a general plan. Some agencies, they may call them sectors. Some call them goals. Some call them chapters. You know, the point is there are several categories out there. Just need to find the element that best fits your community. You know, some elements, this includes urban agricultural, land use, efficiency transportation. I'm not going to go through all of them, but community gardens, green building code, recycling, waste reduction, climate-friendly purchasing, as well as healthy communities. Again, the key here is identify the topics that best fit your sustainability plan. Now, typical elements that you will find in a sustainability plan, you know, this will include land use and community design. Now, this element, it focuses on smart growth with a move to a more urban environment by incorporating pedestrian-friendly, transit-oriented elements. Another key element of this topic is it's a preservation of open space and avoid urban sprawl. The second typical element is efficient transportation. This element focuses on transportation demand management strategies, clean fuel, and circulation system strategies. The third is energy efficiency and conservation. This focuses on gas and electric energy efficiency and conservation measures. The fourth is water, wastewater, and stormwater system. This focuses on the sustainable water supply and being water efficient. The fifth element is green building code. Now, this element, it focuses on building efficiency design. The sixth common element is recycling and waste reduction. This focuses on how to reduce waste. The seventh typical element is healthy community. This focuses on meeting the community needs. To give you an example, a community want to be more bike friendly. So this element may have more discussion on bike lanes within the community and how alternative modes of transportation are a goal within that element. And finally, the last typical element, this is renewable energy and low carbon energy sources. This focuses on increasing renewable energy sources for the community. Now, under each element, you'll have background information on that element. This includes the goal. Now, within each element, there will be at least one goal identified. The goals describe the major objectives to be achieved and to meet the community's vision in order to become more sustainable. Second item is indicators. Indicators provide a means of measuring progress to reach the goal. Effective indicators are relevant. They're easy to understand, reliable, and based on accessible data. The proposed indicators may be refined as a part of developing the community's baseline information as the specifics of sustainability actions are determined by the local agency and the community. Third item is targets. Targets help drive implementation by providing quantifiable goals for achieving success. Targets may be refined as part of developing the local agency's baseline data as the specifics of the actions are determined. Targets may also be adjusted in response to changes in state and federal law. The next item is actions needed. For each goal, one or more actions is identified that could help the community meet the target. How do we get there? Before these actions can be undertaken, it will be necessary to develop strategies to carry them out. Action type. Action type describes the form of action may take as it is implemented. To give you an example, this would be a new state requirement. the city adopts an ordinance or a policy, or a utility provider provides an incentive. The next item is cost. Cost ratings may be included to provide the approximate total cost or potential savings on implementing the element. Essentially, it gives the community an idea of how much that action item will cost. And finally, ecological benefit. The benefit is an indication of the level of the environmental benefit that may result from the action. Ratings are subjective and typically range from a small benefit to a large benefit. Now, to get into a little bit more detail, land use and community design element, and again, these are examples. An example goal, this could include incorporate mixed land use. This is a very common goal where you incorporate high-density residential near employment centers as well as a retail outlet. Why? Well, it gets people out of cars. It gets them walking to work. It gets them riding a bike into the community. An indicator for the goal, this would be updating your zoning ordinance to allow mixed-use centers. Zoning ordinances tend to be rigid. In this case, you could update it towards a little bit more flexible. Maybe provide like an overlay zoning district for mixed-use center. Establish a smart code. Smart code, essentially, this is a code where it provides a more pedestrian-friendly environment. Another indicator could be expedite permitting process for smart growth development. The target for the indicator, well, again, amend the general plan. This would be updating a zoning ordinance. Establish a smart code within a certain time frame. Action, this would be actually identifying a village center within the general plan. I've seen some plans out there where they will provide like a dot in a floating area of where an actual village center could be located. Another action item would be to update setbacks, building height, and building coverage requirements, in more line of a smart code where it's flexible. And finally, rehabilitate affordable housing so it becomes more sustainable. The second element, efficient transportation element. Common goals, this includes develop alternative modes of transportation, complete streets. This would be bike lanes, wider sidewalks. Develop clean fuel strategies for government vehicles. Indicators for the goals, this includes increased public transit ridership, increased use of fuel-efficient light-duty vehicles in the city's government fleet. Targets, this you would like to see an upward trend of public transit ridership. And with respect to increase the use of light-duty vehicles, well, hopefully you would see something like a 15% increase within 2 years, up to 20% within 4 years, up to 25% within 5 years. Action items, well, this would be expand your local transit services, working with the local bus companies by increasing frequency and adding more routes where applicable. Purchase fuel-efficient vehicles geared towards the intended use. Third element, energy efficiency and conservation element. Common goals would be promote energy efficiency awareness and conservation technologies. Update city plans and ordinances to promote greater energy efficiency in both existing and new construction. Indicators, this would include a comprehensive marketing, education, and outreach to the community on what the goals are. A comprehensive review of government plans, codes, and standards for energy efficient measures. Actions, this would include replace lighting fixtures with energy conservation fixtures in government buildings. This action item, it could be something as simple as replacing all light bulbs in the library with energy efficient light bulbs. And finally, complete a comprehensive review of government codes and make changes accordingly. Final element that I'd like to discuss is water, wastewater, stormwater systems. Now, common goals you would see promote water conservation measures, establish programs to increase use of wastewater for irrigation and other non-potable uses. Indicators, this would be actual reduction in potable water use and landscape irrigation, actual increase in the use of rainfall runoff or other non-potable system for landscape irrigation and new construction. Action item, this would be update your water and wastewater rates to encourage water conservation, conduct research, and initiate pilot program using non-potable systems. I think living in Southern California, one of the most common actions that I've seen, I'm sure we've all seen, is agencies looking at conserving water. And in the city I live in, what they've done is, if your address is an even number, you can only water your yard on even days. If it's an odd number address, you can only water on odd days. Well, in order to implement these elements as part of the sustainability plan, you need to have a phasing plan. And the phasing plan will include an initial phase. And typically, the initial phase is action items that are low-cost actions. You want to get the ball rolling on your sustainability plan. Typically, the initial phase, these are for goals that are within 6 months of adopting of your sustainability plan, up to 2 years. Then you'll have midterm phases within your sustainability plan. This includes anything that's low to moderate cost actions. It may take some time to get the necessary funding to move forward. To give you an example of this is like a bike lane, adding bike lanes in your city. Obviously, there is some cost to getting the funding to prepare the plans, to stripe it. It takes time. So again, this is more of a midterm phase. Finally, there's a long-term phase, and typically these are for the costly to very costly action items. To give you an example, this would be if you're looking at providing some type of light rail service to a nearby Metrolink station. Obviously, that's expensive, and typically you would see that as a long-term phase item. Funding sources. It's always a good idea to include in your sustainability plan where those funding sources are. From the federal level, this obviously could be from the U.S. EPA, state level, as well as the regional level. Now, supporting material in the sustainability plan, well, this includes background documentation. Again, going back to your baseline information, typically this section would include the technical analysis that was used for preparing that baseline information for your plan. It's also a really good idea to include current sustainable examples. You want to show the community what exists in your city regarding sustainable projects. If your community has a college, it's not uncommon to find a college where they have LEED certified buildings. It's really good to show examples of like those buildings in your plan. So it gives the community an idea of what's going on. Conceptual plans. It's also good to include anything that may not be incorporated into a general plan. To give you an idea, when I worked on the city of Redlands, we prepared a non-motorized transportation plan, since one did not exist in the city's general plan. And it was very beneficial for the city because they actually took that plan and they built their bicycle lanes off that plan. Finally, any miscellaneous supporting documentation should be provided in your supporting material. It may be a list of who was involved with the preparation of the sustainable plan. Now, steps to getting started. First step, well, you want to clarify your vision. Where do you want the city to be with respect to sustainability down the road? 2, you want to build collaboration. This includes from elected officials to the planning department or the sustainability department to the community. Determine your sustainability elements, as I previously discussed. Identify strategies and methods. Develop an action plan. Track progress. Again, with your sustainability plan, it's really important to track your progress so you can see as you move into the future, are you meeting your goals? Do you need to adjust your plan? Plan input. Well, again, you want to identify your leadership from the agency and the community. It's very essential to get the community involved. Why? Well, you can brainstorm ideas, vision, and individual expertise. Get input and buy-in from each sector. By sector, I mean from the business community, from the retail community, from the educational community. Form a task force. Now, the plan that I worked on in the city of Redlands, we put together a task force. And this task force collaborated with each other, as well as we formed technical subcommittees on each element. And part of the responsibilities of the task force, well, we prepared a plan, coordinated with the agencies. We conducted public workshops and town hall meetings. We also presented to various commissions. This included, Planning Commission, Parks Commission, Public Works Commission, as well as elected officials for their input. And we also provided updates on the web page. Obviously, everyone in the community, they may not be able to attend a workshop or a town hall meeting, to voice their opinion on the plan. Well, what is a successful sustainability plan? A community policy document that sets forth a comprehensive strategy in response to the negative impacts of climate change. The plan identifies elements of sustainability that include goals, indicators, actions, and targets that will contribute to achieving those goals in the planned timeframes. That concludes my presentations. Any questions out there?
Thank you, Frank, for that valuable information. We do have a few questions that have come through, so I'll start by asking those. Just a reminder, again, please feel free to ask any questions you may have using the question box in the control panel. And as I mentioned earlier, if we don't get to your specific question, we will get back to you offline. So the first question we have is, can you please explain the differences between a climate action plan and a sustainability plan?
The difference between a climate action plan, obviously that's it's a little bit more detailed than what you'll see in a sustainability plan. A climate action plan focuses on reducing emissions. How do you do that? Focus on land use element like mixed use. Sustainability plan is more broad. Again, there are an unlimited number of elements from land use to water conservation to healthy communities. So again, a climate action plan is a little bit more specific with how to reduce emissions, whereas a sustainability plan, much more broader.
Great, thank you. What are the most important factors of a successful plan?
I think one of the most important factors is getting the community involved. Again, this is a document for the entire community, so it's very important to conduct your public outreach and identify, the community, inform them of the process so they can get their input. You have technical expertises. I'm sure in every city you have architects, engineers, the business community. It's advantageous to get them involved so you can brainstorm everyone's ideas to put together a plan that is applicable to that community. So again, Jackie, it's I think an important factor is really getting the community involved and working with the agency.
Great, thank you. Another question we have is, why are coalitions and partnerships important in developing a sustainability plan?
Regarding partnerships, I think it's good to work with local businesses, one, with the economic viability with incentive programs. Cities may have public utility companies. And obviously, working with them, encouraging them to develop like incentive programs to find ways to be more sustainable. From the partnership, obviously working with local businesses to see what strategies you can come up with to be more sustainable.
Great. And then another question here, what is the typical cost for developing a sustainability plan?
It's a good question. Obviously it depends on the size of the report or the size of the plan or the level of analysis, like the baseline information. But I think typically maybe $50,000 would be a start for a plan. I've seen some cities where their sustainable plan may be just a table where it's like 5, 6, 7 pages. Obviously, that's not going to cost as much as more expensive plan. Or I've seen some plans that it's almost like a general plan update. Getting that incorporated into the general plan, and obviously that's going to be much more than $50,000.
Got it. So a definite range there. How long does it take to prepare a sustainability plan and process it through the local agency?
Typically, I would say it's a good year. And why it takes that length, this includes, obviously when you're working with a task force, it takes several months for that task force to develop, design a sustainability plan. Obviously, the task force would work with the agency, whether it's the planning department, the sustainability department, to ensure that the plan is consistent with, give you an example, the general plan. Then there's time to go out and solicit input. You're going to have your workshops, town hall meetings, as I discussed earlier. And then finally, once the task force and the agency, once they bought into the plan, taking that to the elected officials. This would include planning commission and either city council or the board of supervisors, depending on the agency. So again, Jackie, I think it would take roughly a year to get a plan approved.
Great. Again, we would welcome you to share what you've learned today on social media using the hashtag local sustainability plans. And also, as I mentioned, you'll receive a recording of this webinar, so please feel free to pass that along to your colleagues or revisit it yourself. I don't see any further questions at this time. If anything comes up and you do have some questions, please feel free to contact us. You'll see Frank's information there on screen. And as we close, I want to thank Frank and everyone who attended. We do hope that you found today's session valuable. And if you're looking for help in getting started on a sustainability plan for your organization, please contact us for more information. Thank you so much for your time today and have a great rest of your day.